Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. We're going to be unboxing Nemesis. This is a game designed by Adam Kwapiński and is published by Awaken Realms. So one disclaimer just before we go ahead, tear this box lid open and see what's inside, which is what I'm dying to do. First off, I'm in Canada, so this box is showing up quite a bit later than most of you guys that are in the United States. You guys have mostly already gotten these boxes or are just getting them and have already torn into them. I'm seeing pictures posted and good things, and that's really reassuring me based on backing this particular project. Now again, this is Awaken Realms, and we did do a Kickstarter preview for the Tainted Grail, which is coming from Awaken Realms as well. And Tainted Grail is a very exciting project as well, and I cannot wait for that one to deliver in the future. But I have Lord of Hellas, which came out first prior to this one, and it had what was called Sundrop, which basically is essentially a pre-painted mini. Not fully professionally painted, but almost tabletop ready painted. Kind of shadowy, almost dry brush look over the miniature to pop out details. What happens in Nemesis essentially is they've taken what they learned from Lord of Hellas, and they've gone ahead and done that same sundrop technique with the aliens here in Nemesis, as well as some of the humans that are actually involved in this game. And then on top of that, they've even added like blood splotting onto the aliens, so it kind of looks a little bit more realistic. So every time they seem to implement this sundrop, it seems to get just a little bit better. So that's good. That's good progress in terms of pre-painted minis if that's your thing. But that's the major disclaimer for you guys. You are going to be seeing a copy here that is sundropped, basically has some pre-painting going on with it. And if you pick this up retail, do not expect to be getting those miniatures in the box painted, or you'll be very disappointed. So that was something you had to pay for additionally within the Kickstarter, and I just want to make that perfectly clear. And of course, there could be items within this box or the next box I'm going to show you that are Kickstarter exclusive. I may miss mentioning which are which because it has been some time, but I'm really excited to open this up, so how about we get right to it. So once the box lid is off, you'll see that the rulebook hits you right in the face from the get-go. The artwork is amazing looking, at least in the rulebook so far, so I cannot wait to see what this looks like inside. In terms of the rulebook, it looks like it's about that thick, so that looks about 30 pages or so. It's saying 28 on the back, so very close. And you can see at the very back of this rulebook here, it's got some extra game modes, and the most important one I want to point out to you guys is the solo and cooperative mode at the back. So this is all built in from the get-go. So solo mode was actually built within the game from the start, so not tacked on, which is nice. And this is the general layout of the rulebook. So again, large paged rulebook, but there is a lot of black space in there between things, so to actually get through this rulebook may not be as daunting as it looks. Looks like there's a lot of visuals in this, which is also nice, so that you won't be lost in terms of understanding what tokens and cards you're going to go ahead and use. This is actually a decent look at the layout of the actual game board, which we'll see in full once I get that out of the box. So the very first thing I'm seeing here is the basic rooms #1 sheet. So it's got armory, comms room, emergency room, a whole bunch of different rooms on the ship. Different explanations for each of them. I have no idea if this is a scenario-based reference sheet or it's every single time you play the game. Again, I haven't played the game yet, so I cannot specifically talk to that. Additional rooms, #2 in the back, some special rooms. So there's one sheet. Now this might be a reference sheet that maybe everybody has in front of them, so maybe that's why there's two of them. Maybe essentially each side of the table has one, because it looks like they're duplicates themselves. So maybe it's just a actual general reference sheet. That'd be my guess. We've got ourselves some nice tiles. These are actually really cool looking. So I'll give you guys a nice close-up look of this without any glare, hopefully, of some of the rooms that you can find in Nemesis. And of course, we'll be punching these later. Some of them are upside down, some of them are not, but you've got all kinds of things in there, like surgery room, the canteen, the command center, storage, all kinds of different spots within the ship. So you're going to get a bunch of those, and this is what the backs of those tiles look like, which is fairly nice. Intruder board up here at the very top. Oh, that's crazy. So you can see up there it says eggs in the nest. That's never good. So character corpse, intruder egg, intruder carcass. You got wow, larva, creeper, adult, breeder, queen. That's nuts. So this is going to be a pretty wild game. I cannot wait for this. Based on all the movies that I've seen and things like that, this is just gonna fill a void that I do not have in my collection, which I'm really excited for. So right now here we have what looks to be the character boards as well. So we're going to go through these one at a time. So this one right here is the mechanic. So I'm just going to bring this up as close as I can to the camera. So this is basically a breakdown of what the mechanic can do, his basic actions, his crafting. It looks like he's got his skills laid out there and the mini that goes along with it. And then the captain is on the opposite side. Similar layout, but different in terms of its abilities. We also have the scientist here. So the scientist looks like this, and this is what the mini looks like. Again, we'll actually see the minis later on too. Plus there's some rooms that are showing up on the either side of these punch boards as well. The pilot is right here. These are all the different characters that we can potentially, I believe there's 6, so this should be the last 2. Soldier is another one. And then on the opposite side here, we have the Scout. Next up, we have the token sheet, which has a whole bunch of tokens. Surprising, right? So we've got all kinds of different tokens here, none of which I can speak to because I haven't played it yet, but I'm really excited by what I'm seeing here in the tokens, and their artwork looks pretty awesome. So you can see here, looks like we got some cubes going on there on the far right in red. We've got a couple of individuals that look like they're not doing so hot, and some gear, maybe some gear tokens up here and things like that. Now, I don't know which of these are replaced by Kickstarter components. Sometimes tokens that are inside of a Kickstarter game are just fully replaced by better or more upgraded components. So we'll see once we get further into the box how that pans out, because it's actually been a while since I've checked the Kickstarter. We have the first player token, which actually ironically is a cat in space, which is just awesome. And then we've got a bunch of doors all over the place. So again, I think doors are also one of the items you can get to potentially bling out the Nemesis package. And then this thing right here, which is a box stand apparently. So that's pretty handy. And now we've made it to the game board. So here is the game board unfolded on the table. We're seeing 4 panels worth right now, with 2 panels just off screen to the right. The whole thing can't fit within the screen currently, as much as I'd love to try to do that. I'm going to actually pan the camera over in a second here so you can see the far right hand side, but you can see the layout of the ship is extremely cool and thematic for the theme of the game. Also has all those spaces for the different rooms because they're randomized throughout this area, so you'll never know exactly where the rooms are, which is a part of the fun experience. And over here is the far right hand side of the same side of this board, and it looks like we've got ourselves like the engine room essentially here at the back. It looks like those are 3 potential engines, I'm assuming, at the very back, and we got a whole bunch of other rooms and spaces over here. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to flip the board over, because there should be an alternative side on the other side, and I don't know if the alternative side is based on player count or is just to give an alternative layout to how you can play the game. But either way, having a double-sided board is always awesome. And flipping the board onto the other side, you can see the layout is totally different, which is really cool because that's going to add to the replayability of the game, of course. So this is the far left-hand side of the other side of the board. And here's a look at the right-hand side of the board. Again, very different than what you saw from the opposite side of the board. Having that double-sided game board is always nice, and again, is going to add into that replayability. So once the game board is out of the box and laid out, you're going to then see a nice tray insert for this game. Everything has its space, literally everything. And on top of this covered tray is actually a plastic cover to keep all the miniatures in place and everything from moving around. But there's different compartments for everything here. How about we take that plastic sheet out and then we'll go ahead and take a look at all the items inside. Now things are starting to get pretty exciting here. We got lots of components to chew through. I'm not going to be able to name everything I see. I'm just going to show them to you one at a time. So the very first thing I'm seeing here is a scanner. Now my understanding of this is you're going to use this to actually scan part of the books within the game. And I don't know which books or cards or what this is actually going to be used for 100%, but I believe you scan this over top of particular cards and it will reveal text that's otherwise unseen. So that's kind of a cool element. It might be part of the story, that type of thing. So you don't want to lose that. That's pretty important. The next thing I'm seeing here are some bases. So I'm not going to bother pulling these out of the bag. They're pretty typical for most of us that have played board games before involving miniatures, but they're colored bases and you simply click them on to the bottom of a miniature to indicate that's your hero and that's your player color. Next up, it looks like we have some cubes, some red cubes actually. So I'll go ahead and show you the quality of these components because again, they are really, really nice. And again, it's a Kickstarter edition, so you can expect these components to be really fancy. But these are what the cubes look like. You'll be using them throughout the game. For what purpose? I'm not 100% certain just yet. Right above that compartment where these red cubes are stored, you can see everything goes back in its place nicely. So there's no reason to throw this insert out. Here's a nice close-up of these beads that come in the game. They're clear white crystal beads. Next up, we have these clear bases that are going to be used for standees in the game, like the doors from the punch tokens that we saw earlier. So again, not too much to see there. We'll just put them back where they belong. And next up, we have ourselves what appears to be a dice bag with the Nemesis logo on the front. That's pretty cool. Here's a nice close-up of the dice. We have 2 black dice as well as 2 translucent red dice. Again, the components are really awesome in this one. So this reminds me of this War of Mine. I believe they had gears in that game as well. And this definitely falls in line with that. They look really cool. I believe this is a component upgrade from the Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. Next up, we have another token set to go through. And I think these ones are flames, I believe. They're going to represent fire within the game, from my understanding. So some really nice tokens representing those. Now this is only half of those tokens from the bag, but they're pretty cool. Not sure exactly what their use is for just yet. For people that actually played the game already can let me know in the comments below if you know exactly what these ones are for, but they look awesome nonetheless. Now in the very top section of this first tray within the box, you've got these Nemesis, what look to be card trays, and if I'm not mistaken and haven't forgot, that's exactly what these are for, and they're numbered as well, so there should be 5 of them, and there's the 5th one. I've got the 4th one in my hand, and there's actually 3 more in this particular spot in the tray for storage, which is awesome because you can just put them all back where they belong when you're done with them. So first off, these are the first 3 heroes that you can potentially pick to use. And again, I don't know which one's which just yet, but you can see the detail of the miniature as well as the sun drop, which is essentially kind of like dry brushing to bring out the effects or the edges and make them a little bit more apparent on the miniature, which is nice. Of course, you can still paint over these, so if you want to touch them up and make them look even better, then you can go ahead and do that. But again, if you pick this up retail, none of this sun drop is going to be on it. And here are 3 other heroes that you can choose from and what they look like. So again, looking really sharp. I'm liking the detail on them. I also like the fact that there's actual detail on the base of each of these miniatures so that they actually feel like they're on the ship, which is a really cool extra. Now we're going to move into some of the miniatures that come into the gameplay in terms of enemies. I have no idea what these ones are specifically called, but they look like tiny little alien creatures. Basically, these are probably the ones that come from the eggs and just swarm you. So there's 6 of these in the game. And these next enemies are other ones in Nemesis you might come across in the corridors, and you can see here the sun drop on them look really, really good. You've also got the blood splatter kind of around them as well. There's 2 of them in my hand, but the game comes with 3. So you can see that as we move up through the aliens that come in the game, they get a little more aggressive, a little more scary looking. And the actual sun drop, I'm really happy with. Really glad I actually went ahead and got them. Do not have any regrets now after seeing only a handful of the miniatures, especially the enemies in the box. They look fantastic. So that is going to conclude the look at the very first tray within the box, but there's still a second tray within Nemesis. We have to dig a little deeper and take a look at some more of the miniatures. Now this is a beautiful sight. Look at these minis. I cannot wait to show you an up-close view of some of the biggest ones in the Nemesis box. Here are 2 more wonderful creatures you can expect to find on your journeys in Nemesis. Like, look at the detail on these things. They look super awesome. Or you may run into these extremely tall standing aliens. Look at how high off my hand these things stand. Look at the details on the back and front of them. The bases have actual rubble built into them, which again is sun dropped shaded. It looks amazing. I'm really impressed. Another set of aliens that you can run into that look different. Again, I'm assuming they have different attributes and things like that, but very happy with the quality. Already said I love the sun drop at this point. You can see the progression that Awaken Realms has made from going from Lord of Hellas to Nemesis is a huge jump in quality on the sun drop. Very happy with it. And honestly, this game is going to have a massive presence on the table. So now we're getting into some of the bigger miniatures for the box. This one comes in a set of 2. I can only hold 1 at a time because this thing is huge. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this thing around so you can see it from all angles. Absolutely beautiful and terrifying all at the same time. And last but certainly not least is the Queen. At least that's what I believe this is called. And you can see it's on an amazing pedestal here. Looks fantastic from every side that you look at it. It's ridiculously nice. Although if you see this thing in your game, you're in big trouble. You've got lots of work to do. You got your work cut out for you for sure. This is a fantastic mini. It's huge. It fills up my entire hand easily. It's probably double the thickness, if not triple, of any other miniature in the box. It's the biggest one from the core box by far. You can see the detail from the sun drop has really brought this mini to life. So last but certainly not least is the cards, and they're all packaged up at the very top of this particular tray 2 insert. We've got 5 packs of cards to go through, so I'll go ahead and rip those open and give you a closer look. So with these particular cards, I'm going to focus mainly on the actual card art more so than the mechanics and everything, because I haven't actually played the game yet. But you can see here most of these cards in this pack. The first one I opened are Intruder Attacks. We also have Serious Wound cards, which look really thematic and awesome. Again, the artwork is really, really good. The event deck is right here as well. So it looks like a little bit of everything in this pile. So this should be interesting to kind of go through. And again, I won't focus too much on the text at the bottom. We might even just pass right through it. But it's going to give you a sense of these different types of cards. So cards like this, for instance, are considered event cards. They look like this on the front. So we'll just go through a majority of these before we head into another deck. But looking pretty aggressive for sure. The artwork's really colorful, definitely pops. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far, very thematic. And now I think we are into another card. This is the, Serious Wound. So you can have your arm have a serious wound. You can have your leg have a serious wound. Your body. This is really cool. I cannot wait to play this. Bleeding. Your hand can be hit. Now we're getting into, what are these ones called? The intruder attack cards. So these are going to be maybe specific to the different types of aliens that are attacking. So very quickly, I'm sure we'll become familiar with the names of each of these as they do different things to us. But these, I believe, are just maybe generic to all or generic to a subset of them. And we will see. But this is the first pile of cards in Nemesis. So I'm going to go ahead here, put these just in this tray, and we'll go to the next deck. The back of the next deck looks like this. It actually has a ship on the very front of it. So I should say the back of it actually. And then we've got some character draft cards. So maybe this is a way that we can actually draft our characters without knowing blindly, would be my guess. So if you flip it over, one says pick mechanic. So that's pretty cool. If you want to do a draft for your characters, you can do it that way. You got pass cards. We have intruder player action cards. We also have solo co-op objective cards. That's awesome. So they even have a deck specifically made for them. Objective cards in general. How many solo co-op are in there? That's of interest to me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, at least in the core game, which is pretty awesome. And then a whole bunch of just other objective cards. So we'll go ahead here through them. Of course, I may not be able to stop at those particular solo ones, but if it's easy to spot them, then I will. But here is the art and the different names on these cards. Wow, some of these are really nice looking. So these must be the objective cards here, would be my guess. Yes, so at some point, just before these generic ones are maybe the solo ones. These ones, these are the solo ones here. They have this kind of look to them. Destination Earth is the first card. So I'll stop on these ones so you guys can actually have a read on these ones, because they're actually slightly important to the channel, because this is very, very important information for those of you watching here, wondering what it has for solo and co-op. So you can pause the screen if you want to read those more. And then we're going to rip through the rest of these, because they're so... Some of them are kind of spoilerish too. Like, I don't really want to hover on anything too much. Some of these are help cards and things. It's not really spoilers, because it's not like a legacy game or anything like that. But you know, sometimes finding things for yourself is part of the fun. So we have all of these. I have no idea what these are, but they're all very interesting looking. What are these? Oh, these are the cards that has space in them. So I don't know what those are for exactly just yet. Maybe there's some kind of subclass to who you are or something like that. But that is the second deck. This next deck is literally a gigantic deck full of action cards. I thought there would be something else mixed in this, but it's just a massive pile of action cards. So we're going to go through this and really just do it for the art mainly, so you guys can see this. Now, I do highly recommend you guys go check out BGG to learn more about the game. It really has something special going on about it in terms of the objectives and trying to win, and the secret objectives even that people have. And if you're playing solo and co-op, that's going to be a whole other different type of experience that'll likely be generated and pulled strongly from those solo and cooperative cards that you saw. But you can play this game cooperatively or against each other and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting that way, and the different ways it can be played. But I love the fact it can be played solo out of the box. There's no like tacked on expansion needed or anything like that. You can play one player with the base game, which is fantastic. The other thing I'm noticing with the artwork is not only is it really gorgeous, it also is very uniform. So they must have had one artist do everything, because I'm not seeing any card that strikes me as being completely different than everything else I've seen so far. Now, there certainly is a lot of cards in here, so I'm just barely able to hold on to the other deck as I go through these, trying not to drop it because it's quite ridiculous in size. Oh, that's so cool. I really can't. Oh, contamination. You don't want contamination cards, it looks like. There's a few of those, so I'm assuming that has a really nasty effect. There's actually a bunch of those. Oh, so that's maybe where the decoder comes in. That makes sense now. So that red decoder we saw earlier likely decodes what's inside the contamination so that you don't know what it is until you scan it. That's really cool. That's extremely awesome. Okay, now I'm even more pumped. I'm finding things out just from unboxing the cards. I'm kind of putting pieces together in my head as to how this works again, and also from watching videos from way back when the Kickstarter first launched and I backed it. All right, so these cards are called the coordinates cards, and I don't know if they're all coordinates, but we'll go through them and see. No, it looks like it stops a bit through and gets into crafted items, so I guess we're able to craft items in the game. Very cool. We have regular item cards. Got to have items in order to try to survive, so lots of searching involved. I think this is a giant deck of them. You got regular items that have to do with likely healing, because you're going to be beaten up by the aliens quite badly throughout the game. So let's take a look at what these things look like on the back side. So of course you got some bandages. You're going to need those. So one-time use bandages, a bunch of them. We've got ourselves some alcohol. You can drink your problems away. Some clothes. Military drugs, those seem like they would be helpful. Adrenaline injection, grenades, using grenades. Now, granted, remember there's like fire, so maybe you can actually, potentially start fires in this thing too. Prototype pistols, shotguns, rifles, energy charges you can set, I'm assuming. That's pretty cool. Maybe set them as a trap so that the aliens walk into them. A recon drone would be good. Maybe that allows you to see aliens that you wouldn't otherwise be able to see. Self-destruct key, comms key, smoke grenades, extended magazine, decoys, antidotes, tasers. These sound like all the wonderful things you would need. Flamethrower, even better. A couple of those. A few of those. Molotov cocktails, yes. These will likely cause fire, as you can see from the icon below. These are the coordinate cards. I have no idea. Maybe this has to do with where the ship's going, and maybe this is part of the objectives, is like something to do with the fact that some players can potentially win by having the ship make it to a particular objective. Or a particular place, particular coordinate. I have no idea, but that seems very interesting nonetheless. Now we'll head into the very last pack of cards. The last pack of cards here starts off where we left off in the other deck, some medical-based items, or at least where we began, I should say. And then we've got some other items that look like they could be for an engineer, potentially. Have a wrench on it, so that's what I would guess. Moving on through, what do we have here? Soldier. Oh, so these are maybe specific to the type of character you pick, maybe their abilities. Yeah, like your starting item, some information that way. So you got one for every single character in the game all the way through. Intruder weakness. Interesting. I don't know what would cause that, but we'll find out, I'm sure. So intruder weaknesses, what are those about? So vulnerability to fire. So, okay, so interesting. Maybe these can give you a way of killing them, like they're vulnerable to a certain type of thing that you can then use to your advantage to kill them, be my guess. Classic 6-shooter. So we got a bunch of items in here mixed in too. Some more guns, flashlights, plasma torch, shotgun, evacuation key. So in terms of thematic feel of this game and presentation, off the charts. Like, I'm loving it. Don't know if that's coming across, but my excitement is, I'm having a hard time continuing this unboxing without shutting the camera off and running to the table immediately and trying this thing out. This looks phenomenal. And the more I look at it, the more things are starting to connect in my head, although I don't know the rules fully just yet. But some things are starting to make sense to me, and as I think I read the rule book, that will all kind of gel together in my head. But I think I'm in for some surprises as well, because I couldn't believe that one of those cards was able to be scanned. I thought that was maybe something, the red scan card that we have from the beginning of the unboxing might have been used in the rulebook somewhere to see maybe some story text or something you couldn't see. I didn't realize you'd be using it maybe on cards, which is really cool. So, with all that said, we have now covered all of what would be included in the core game. Remember, big disclaimer, we've got Sundrop involved here, so if you're looking to pick this up retail, do not expect the miniatures to be painted for you, but if you love painting, then you can go to town on these things. They will look gorgeous, and as you can see, even just dry brushing them makes the details pop fantastically. If you haven't already figured it out, super excited to try this and really looking forward to doing a showcase of this on the channel. So sometime this year, and I haven't scheduled the exact time frame on this one will definitely be getting a rolling solo showcase, as it's one I've been looking forward to doing for quite some time. So hopefully you guys will join me for that, because I think it'll be really, really exciting. So this concludes the unboxing for Nemesis from Awaken Realms. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're willing to stick around, I'm going to go ahead and unbox a specific Kickstarter exclusive box that came along with it, which adds more content in for backers. So if you want to see what I got inside of that, feel free to stick around for a little extension of the unboxing. So for those of you that stuck around in order to see the Kickstarter bonus content for Nemesis, you're in for a treat. We're going to crack this box open and see what's inside. So the very first thing that I noticed when I opened up this box was the Tainted Grail, and I talked about this at the very beginning of the unboxing. This was a game that I covered here on Rolling Solo in a Kickstarter preview that showed you guys how to play the game solo. I had a ton of fun with it. If you have not heard of the Tainted Grail, it's the next Kickstarter that Awaken Realms has already started, finished, and in terms of the Kickstarter, and is now working to fulfill in the future, and it's a really exciting one. I had a lot of fun. This art book basically focuses on all the art from that particular game. So if you're not familiar with it, this will not make any sense to you in terms of what you're seeing, but if you want to know more, check it out on my page. You'll be able to find a playthrough for it. For those of you that are waiting with bated breath, like myself, for this game to deliver in the future, this is just going to give you a nice inside peek at, or inside look at all the fantastic art that went into the Tainted Grail, most of which you're going to end up seeing on cards and through different various means within the game when it delivers. Also within the package, I found myself a letter, which Awaken Realms has done actually in their prior Kickstarters as well, just thanking backers for backing, and also kind of adding in some trinkets and things from the coming Kickstarters that have already been in process. And in this case, the Tainted Grail, because I'm Canadian, this game took a little bit longer to get through customs, but basically this Kickstarter already fulfilled. But this is an actual coin that's used within the game as a counter, and they actually included one as a nice little token of appreciation for the backers of Nemesis to get them excited for that upcoming campaign. But most of those backers already knew about the campaign, and it's just nice to see them adding those things in as they progress through multiple projects. Next up, it appears we have a token punch board, which I'm not sure is directly related to Nemesis or not. I'm thinking it is, but it might have something to do with the Untold Stories book that also came along with this Kickstarter content, and I believe this is the graphic novel, if I'm not mistaken, that goes along with the game. So Nemesis in the Kickstarter edition here has Untold Stories #1, and it's really cool. I'll hold it up here at the camera so you guys can see it, but essentially it's an actual comic that can actually draw you into the game when you're playing, and I believe it integrates itself within the gameplay as well. So you can read this as you're actually going through like a cooperative campaign, for instance, to give you kind of a little bit of a background on the gameplay and what's actually going on in the world, not just what's going on in your game. And it talks about all the different items and things that you're using. So if you're going to go on a cooperative mission, you go on mission #1, you go ahead and you read the story going into it, and then go along your way and try to set up the mission and defeat it. And then after that, you're going to move into mission #2. So they, as part of the Kickstarter, basically created this book, which is one of the coolest things ever. And I'll probably likely in my showcase follow this when we move into a solo play if possible, because I really think this would be an interesting look into how Nemesis works. The last thing that's included in this Kickstarter exclusive box here is Ether Fields, which I believe is a nod to their next project, maybe one that's even further out than Tainted Grail. I'm not sure where this one lands exactly, but it says in the back of the box that it's a cooperative, story-driven board game with heavy focus on character development where your actions impact your personality and the general mood of this forsaken world. This new Awaken Realms miniature board game will feature gameplay designed by Michael, and author of the story of this War of Mine. That's pretty cool because I love this War of Mine. And one-of-a-kind aesthetic. Learn the secrets of Ether and try to escape this beautiful dystopian nightmare. So that is the back of the box, and this is basically the promo cards that they added in to show a little bit about the game. So essentially it's a deck of playing cards, basically. All the backs have a cover like that, and essentially it literally is just a deck of playing cards. And once you get to the jacks and you get to the queens and the kings, you start to see artwork from the game, which is kind of interesting because I think that cues back to the models that are actually going to be in the game, which are obviously going to be extremely interesting. So if I skip past all of that and get to the very back here is where they actually start showing some models models that are going to come within the game. And it really does, the more I look at it, kind of have that Kingdom Death Monster-esque look to it, but I could be off. I could be wrong on that, but it definitely has a very out there appeal to it. So that could be a really exciting campaign. Not sure what's going to come of that one, but something to look out for. And that literally is everything inside the Nemesis core box, as well as what the backers received as some stretch goals and some extras. But I shouldn't say everything has arrived just yet, because Wave 2 brings more stretch goals and more content for Nemesis in the future, and I'll be really happy to show you guys that when it does arrive. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you're excited for a showcase of Nemesis on the channel this year. Let me know in the comments below if you're looking forward to that. I'd love to know the excitement level for that, and I'll see you in the next video. And as always, keep on rolling solo.